Ramous noticed a shadow standing in the bushes as he pulled into the driveway of the beachcomber. "Is someone there? I'd come out if I were you." A soft voice spoke in the darkness. "Hi Ram. How are you?" "I'm fine. Is that you, Zoe?" "Yes." "Why are you hiding in the bushes?" "I didn't want to startle anyone. I could see you weren't home, and I was worried I might frighten your friends." "How long have you been there?" "Since 3 this afternoon." "Come on. I'm staying in the 3-bedroom house on the property. From now on, you can wait for me there." Ramous reached in his pocket and pulled out his keychain where he kept an extra key for the house. He took it off the chain and handed it to Zoe. "Here, take this key so you won't need to hide in the bushes, just let yourself in when you need to wait for me." Zoe said nothing. She took the key and put it in her jeans pocket. Ramous put his hand on her elbow to direct her. "What's that on your elbow?" "It's a bone spur. Every gen has one just below the elbow. I don't know why it's there, but it comes in handy for quick identification. I have a similar one on my elbow. Although I'm not a general, I got mine when I broke my arm from my accident up in Seattle. It's not as pronounced as yours." Zoe felt his arm and said, "That feels awful suspicious. Are you sure you're not a gen?" "Quite certain." Once inside the house, Zoe asked Ramous to turn on the TV. Afterward, she changed the channel to the national news. A reporter was talking. "We are not sure who detonated the bomb, or how many victims there are. Local police and FBI have stretched crime scene tape around a 3-block area, and they have evacuated everyone within the area. They have just put the fire out, although it was a small fire compared to the size of the building. Most of the damage was from the explosion, which brought the whole 6-story building crashing down on everyone inside. The blast also destroyed several houses in the 3-block area." "Ramous, the building belongs to the St. Paul Corporation and is used as a research facility. It's where I was born." The reporter continued, "It's not clear if the research taking place in the building caused the explosion. No one is sure what happened or why, and it may be days or weeks before we do. Over 300 people were inside the building when it exploded, which makes this so devastating." Zoe turned off the television. "This isn't good news, Ramous. Also, I learned this morning they killed Dania last night in a raid. She was killed by a grenade. They found pieces of her, which included her identification number. That should make you happy. She no longer can hurt you or anyone you care about." Ramous didn't say anything. He knew that Dania was probably acting on orders from someone higher up. So, he was not overly moved by her death. He asked, "Are the two related?" "I think so. I assume that because of her death, 73 other first gens turned themselves into the Seattle office this afternoon. So, St. Paul brought in around 200 second gens to provide security. Before the first gens turned themselves in, they strapped on some high-end explosives. Once most of, or all, the second gens were inside, they set them off. The rest you saw on the television. The explosion killed all the first and second gens along with 47 employees of St. Paul, researchers and management." "What about Mike Davis? Was he there?" "No, he's still in Tillamook. He contacted me to tell me of the situation and said he planned to contact us tomorrow to brief both of us. He said he talked with an employee who saw a first gen detonate themselves when the last of the second gens walked through the front entrance, and then the whole building came down. Now, the surviving second gens are nervous. I have 2 friends who are planning on coming here tomorrow. Do you mind? They have an RV, and since you have a small RV park, would it be alright if they stayed there for a few days until everything gets straightened out?" Ramous paused for a moment. "That will be fine. I'll prepare a spot for them, and it should be no problem. They can stay as long as they need to." "Thank you. I knew I could depend on you." "Yes, you can, Zoe. Ram, I suspect they will only be here for a few days, only until we get all the information. We won't know anything more until the CIA cleanup crews finish and a thorough investigation is made. They can't let the investigation go on too long because the neighbors will need to move back in. and they don't want to draw any more attention than they have to. Just then, headlights came shining through the windows. Ramous went out to the front porch to see who it was. It was a new mobile home. He called for Zoe, assuming it was her friends. Ramous said, "Well, that didn't take long." Zoe answered, "I wasn't expecting them until tomorrow." Two attractive young women stepped from the vehicle and ran up to Zoe and hugged her. Mel said, "Hi, sweetheart." Kat hugged and kissed her on the cheek. Zoe turned and said, "Ram, please meet my best friends, Milissa and Catherine." Both ran over to Ramous and hugged him. Milissa said, "Hello Ramous, we have heard a lot about you." Ramous wasn't sure what to think, but greeted both women and invited them inside. Ramous was always a little suspicious. It was his nature. Once inside, Zoe asked, "Weren't you coming tomorrow?" Mel answered, "Well, with what happened in Seattle, we got anxious. That was an act of war. How bold they have become." Then she spoke in Russian. Zoe looked at Ramous and answered her in Russian. Ramous didn't care, so he walked into the kitchen to make a sandwich, and figured if it involved him, they would tell him. He wondered what his involvement with the St. Paul Corporation will be from this point on. What about his involvement with Zoe? Their encounter on the beach had quite an impact on him and invaded his thoughts constantly. How could he care for this woman? Was she a woman? She seemed like a woman in every respect. How confusing. He realized it did not matter, he cared for her. What if Zoe was in the building? What if? Ramous bent over onto the counter, sick to his stomach, considering the possibility. Until this moment, he hadn't realized how important she had become to him. It was all too fast. Zoe came walking into the kitchen. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine, just a cramp from not eating today." "Mel's going to move the RV to the park. We don't need anything tonight, so you can set us up with power and water tomorrow if that's all right." "Okay. If you guys need anything in the meantime, just holler." "You're a wonderful person, Ramous, and I'm happy you're in my life." Then she said, "Ramous?" "Yes?" "I'm falling for you, be careful." She smiled at him and walked back into the living room. He was totally put off guard now. "She's certainly bold," he whispered to himself. He did not expect that, and it made him more anxious. When Ramous got up the next morning, he went to the hotel where Emily, Zoe, Mel, and Kat were sitting at the counter in the kitchen. He was surprised to find them there. Emily was pouring coffee when he entered. They looked at him as if expecting him to speak. "Good morning, ladies. Is there any coffee left?" Emily retrieved a cup from the cupboard and poured one for him. "Good morning, Ram." The other three just stared at him. He asked, "What's going on?" Emily answered, "Your friends and I were talking about going to Cannon Beach and Seaside. It's a perfect day to go shopping." Zoe got up from her chair, hugged Ramous, and said, "Good morning, Ram. Did you sleep well and do you feel better this morning?" When she sat down, everyone in the room remained silent while staring at both of them. "I slept well, and I'm better this morning, thank you. Have you seen Peter?" Emily answered, "I haven't seen him yet. We're supposed to buy a car today. I'm sure he's hiding from me. I'll go bang on his door and get him out of bed." Once Emily left the room, Ramous informed the women Emily knew nothing, and it needed to stay that way. Zoe explained she had already told them of the situation. "Thank you, Zoe. I need to go into the station and should be back around noon to get the RV set up. Will you be okay until then?" Everyone agreed, as they were going into Cannon Beach and Seaside to shop for clothes anyway, and wouldn't be around for most of the day. Ramous looked at Catherine and said, "Catherine, you're awful quiet." Mel answered, "Catherine lost a special friend in the bombing yesterday. She has been quiet since. Usually, we can't shut her up. In fact, we were all supposed to be there, but slept in because the batteries died in our alarm clock, which was a first for us." Ramous cringed as he looked over at Zoe. She gazed back at him as both Milissa and Catherine took notice of the two. Just then, Emily and Peter walked into the kitchen. Emily mentioned Peter was taking her into the car lot early to finish purchasing a car for her. She told them they'd be back by 11 a.m., and available to take them into town. So, they all agreed that 11 a.m. was perfect because it gave them time to get ready. Peter turned to Ramous and said, "Good morning, Ram." "Good morning, Peter." Peter asked, "Do you need me for anything?" "We need to meet this afternoon. We have a few things to talk about." "Okay. As Emily mentioned, we should return around 11 a.m. Would you like to meet then?" "No. Let's meet at 1 p.m. this afternoon." "All right, see you then," he said as he and Emily walked out the back door. Ramous told the three they could use the lighthouse suite to shower and get ready should they need it. The lighthouse suite was a small attached building at the back corner of the hotel, built in the shape of a lighthouse. It was 1 floor higher than the hotel and had a spiral staircase leading to a large circular suite at the top. Windows surrounded the whole room, where one could look out in every direction. It was the honeymoon suite. He gave keys and directions before he left to go into the station. The whole way in, he worried about what kind of trouble those three women might get themselves and him into. Back in the kitchen, both Milissa and Catherine stared anxiously at Zoe. Kat asked, "Zoe, what are you going to do once St. Paul has dealt with the first gens? Are you going back to work for St. Paul?" "If my thinking is correct, they believe we're dead, right?" Kat answered, "Yes, I'm sure they do. So no, I don't plan on telling them I'm alive just yet, and besides, I'm not sure if there will be a St. Paul Corporation when this is over. Once it's out what they have been doing, it will be the end for them." Mel said, "I doubt it, Honorable. A company like St. Paul never goes away. I suspect they could be accused of setting off a nuclear bomb and walk away from it unscathed." Zoe answered, "I have a sick feeling you're right. What are you two planning when this is over?" Mel asked, "Zoe, do you recall when Kat and I left for Denmark last year?" "I do, yes. They sent us to find a German by the name of Perry Holstein. He was a German Muslim, who was funneling money to the Muslim Brotherhood, Hezbollah, and several other terrorist organizations fighting against Israel. Do you remember he was a billionaire?" "Of course, I do. Okay, so? If you recall, we found him at the same time the Israeli Secret Service did, the Mossad. We were too late to infiltrate his organization, but we did find something special, for Kat and me anyway." "What did you guys find? What did you do, Milissa?" "Hold on, Honorable Perry was wealthy. He kept 2 sets of books, one for business and one for his personal life. So, the Mossad raided his offices and killed Perry, his personal accountant, and several others who were keeping books for his activities. They also killed an Iranian general who Holstein was holding meetings with. The Mossad's targets were Holstein and the general. Holstein planned on funding a terrorist operation into Israel. We never found out what the operation was. The Mossad moved through the building so fast they didn't find the safe holding the ledgers kept by his personal accountant. They weren't interested in those personal ledgers anyway, only the business ones, which, we understand, contained all the names and organizations who were helping Holstein funnel large amounts of money, through Iran, to several terrorist organizations." Zoe said, "Do tell." Kat answered, "Aren't you the eager beaver? Well, the Mossad didn't stick around to be found out, so they left in a hurry, taking a small safe containing the information they were looking for. We learned as much from a CIA operative in Denmark who'd been in contact with the Israelis. The idiot neglected to tell us we were competing with Israeli intelligence. So, as the Mossad left, Mel and I broke into Holstein's office building. We found another safe the Israelis missed or didn't care about. Well, you know, no one can break into a safe like Mel can. We found his personal books in the safe, including 23 secret, offshore bank accounts, with account numbers and access codes, totaling $643 million. Zoe said, "You didn't say anything about that. Did you do what I think you did?" Kat answered, "Don't get ahead of us, Zoe. I'm getting there." "Okay. The safe contained a personal diary which included all of his close family and friends. All of his friends except one were murdered or had been killed because of their terrorist activities. The Mossad left that last associate dead on the floor of his office. He was Holstein's personal accountant. He had no one else except two nieces, both living in Germany. His diary made it clear they didn't associate with him and hadn't seen him for over 25 years. Zoe, there was no one to give all those millions to. The safe included his will, in which he left all of his money to his personal accountant and a dead Hezbollah operative. When you briefed us about the mission, his name was in the list with a dozen other dead terrorists. The money belonged to no one. Also, as you already know, no one in this world can forge signatures and documents like I can. Well, maybe you can, but I think we're pretty close. I've already figured out what the two of you have done. Of course you did, but you're not letting me brag in the least bit. Okay, continue to brag, Cat. Well, I forged a will and other pertinent documents which gave us access to Holstein's offshore accounts. We took all the money and transferred it into 10 different accounts under different names and closed out the old accounts. If anyone traced those accounts, they'd find nothing of value. We now have access to all his money, so when this is all done, both of us will change our names and travel for the rest of our lives. Oh, I forgot to mention, not only do we have 643 million in the bank, we have 37 properties around the world. Those properties are worth at least another 600 million. We also gained 5 private jets, including a Gulfstream 3 sitting at a private hangar at JFK in New York, another Gulfstream 3, and 2 decked-out Airbus A319s, and last but not least, a 727 all sitting in a personal hangar in Madrid, Spain. Along with the other stuff, we got 2 yachts. One is a 60-foot Hatteras, and the other one is a 130-foot Norto Air 130. The Hatteras is moored in Seattle. The Norto is moored in Port Jackson in Sydney, Australia. So, you two were rather ambiguous on what you did during the operation. I knew the Mossad interrupted your mission, but nothing about what happened afterward. I didn't ask either. Yet, you didn't tell me any of this. Why? How come you didn't leave before now? Cat answered, we didn't tell you because we thought at the time you might be too much of a company man, or woman, and might have made us turn it over to the government, or worse, St. Paul. Boy, were we wrong about you, Honorable. We have been waiting for the right time to leave without being found out or followed. Now, St. Paul thinks we were in the building in Seattle. As far as we know, St. Paul believes we're dead. We planned to leave it that way. So, this is the perfect time to go. Okay. I have one more question that has bugged me since I read your report. Tell me who set Holstein's building on fire? Was it the Mossad, or was it you? Mel answered, we did. The Mossad was too sloppy, and they were in such a hurry. So, in the act of destroying the contents of the safe, we ended up burning the building down too. We grabbed a bunch of paperwork and other burnable materials from off our desk and tossed them into the safe. In the same room as the safe, we found a closet full of weapons. We dismantled several grenades and recovered a little over a pound of powder. We taped a ruler on the edge, leaning back, of the middle shelf, and attached a release pin and grenade, and then taped it to the door. When we closed the door to the safe, the pin slipped up over the ruler. When they opened it, and I'm sure they did, the pin caught on the ruler, pulled the pin, and exploded, destroying everything inside, leaving only ashes. We didn't expect to burn the building down. The fire turned out to be the best way to cover our tracks. Besides, everyone inside was already dead, except whoever opened the safe. I'm sure it helped to cover the Israelis' tracks too. The Israelis took Holstein, and we still don't know why. He was dead. Such operators. I'm proud of you too. Listen, if the issue ever comes up again, I'd protect you both with my life. You don't have to hide anything from me. I'm always on your side. Cat answered, thank you, Zoe. I promise to never keep anything from you again. Mel agreed, and said, 2 properties we took were villas in Barcelona. We plan to use one villa as our permanent home, so that we can have easy access to the hangar in Madrid. When we leave, we will take the Gulf Stream out of New York to Spain and put it with the others. Holstein, being so wealthy, tied up most of his assets in property titles for the aircraft, and deeds. We didn't even bother with his cars other than to take the titles. All of it was in his safe under various aliases. We found them and now they're ours. We are filthy rich billionaires, the three of us, Zoe. Wow, you guys. I'm surprised the US government didn't investigate. Generally, they check for such things when characters like Holstein are eliminated. Mel answered, Cat, and I followed up on the US response, and you're right, under normal circumstances, the US government would have done that kind of research and found the treasure, but the American government wanted nothing to do with the Mossad hit. The US backed out without the slightest investigation and turned everything they had over to the Israeli government. Israel, for political reasons, was not going back to research any further, and risk exposing their involvement in the hit to the United Nations. Israel blamed the hit on another terrorist group opposed to Iran. Consequently, Iran sent Hezbollah in to neutralize the group blamed for the hit. No one found out about what Kat and I did, no one. Zoe, you can join us. I will consider the offer. One more question. We were operating under Mark at the time before he died, didn't he figure it out? Mel said, no, but we told him. We wanted to include him. Mark has always been good to us. We kind of told him without telling him to figure out how he might respond. He was killed soon afterward. Did you kill Mark? No. We told him, but he didn't turn us in. He was eager to get in on the action, so we cut him in. Is that what got him killed? In a way, it did. He wanted to retire because he was tired of working in espionage and wanted out. He wanted to leave St. Paul, so we helped him out. We're so clever, Zoe. You recall he lived outside Renton, right? Yes. Well, he ordered a hit on himself. He ordered the Singh brothers to blow up her home, his home, and blame it on the Chinese mafia, the Red Dragons. St. Paul knew the Dragons were looking for the person responsible for the deaths of those 18 top management types killed in Hong Kong, the ones killed by the first gen, Janice. Remember, she killed them during a bout of paranoia. Do you remember? Yes. It created an international incident. She's dead, by the way. She was killed yesterday in the bombing, poor child. What a mess we have gotten ourselves mixed up in, Zoe, but hopefully it will work out soon. Now, let's get back to Mark. Yeah, go on. Timothy 217 made both of the Singh brothers look precisely like two management types in the Dragon's human resources. Afterward, Mark sent them in to blow up his own home. The Singh brothers never found out the house belonged to Mark. Sadly, the Singh brothers were also killed yesterday. The first gens murdered a lot of our friends yesterday. I can't wait until they're all dealt with. Well, the explosion blackened almost an acre, and there was nothing left of the house. The FBI arrested the two Dragon leaders and charged them with capital murder. They sent both to prison for life, not like they didn't have it coming, anyway. That was clever. Yes, it was. The idea was to catch the Singh brothers on a security camera, looking like the two gang members. Security cameras captured the two men at the end of Mark's driveway when they arrived and left his property. Timothy was so good at his craft. When Mark took over as our supervisor, he left instructions should anything happen to him, St. Paul should wipe him from all company records, which is company policy anyway for everyone involved with the gens, or espionage. The Singh brothers never found out who it was they murdered. St. Paul erased Mark from all company files. Afterward, he never existed as far as it concerned them. Now, he and Dee are living in a multi-million-dollar villa in Spain as we speak. It's one of the properties we got along with the others and is about 7 kilometers from the one we intend to live in. We gave it to them as a wedding present, and they're living under assumed names and having the time of their lives. Mark and Dee? How? Once they declared Mark and Dee dead, we falsified records, DNA, etc. You know a little of this, A little of that. The cleanup unit found fragments of titanium where Mark's home stood, which is why the bomb had to be so big. It had to be big enough to destroy a titanium skeleton. Kat, who is almost as good as Timothy with disguises, made Mark and Dee look like a middle-aged couple. We created European passports and sent them on their merry way. Zoe asked, why did Dee get involved? They were in love, Zoe. It can happen, right? I've noticed the way Ramous looks at you, and the way you look back. Yes, I have feelings for him, and I think he does for me, but I'm not sure. Kat answered, he does, you moron. Mel interjected, if your love life doesn't work out, you're welcome to join us. You enjoy traveling as much as we do. It's built into our character. Now, we can go anywhere in the world we desire. Regardless, if you join us or not, we will make sure you're taken care of once this is over. Thank you. I'll consider it, Mel. I'm thrilled the two of you have a plan, and a lot of money to accomplish it. I don't know what I'll do when we're done with this mess,